because I was admiring him from afar. So since like 2016, I would be reading his articles and fangirling him. I was like, oh my god! Like at 2017, before World Toughest Mudder started that race, I went to go take a piss off the side of the cliff because everyone was going to the bathrooms. And then Trevor was like, oh, he was like right next to me. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm peeing next to Trevor's cycles. It's so cool.
I remember that. I didn't know that was you. I remember some guy
that was
when I was sitting there picking a link for the race.
I'm editing all this out because this is too much love for Trevor. I'm getting embarrassed right now. And we're back for episode 3 of the All You Got podcast, where Steph and Trev talk to people who are really going after their dreams. In this episode, we had the one and only Javier Escobar. You might have heard of him, and his amazing girlfriend, who's even more of a badass, Vanessa Gebhardt. What do you think about this conversation?
I loved it. So like Escobar, we kind of caught up with him about how he got to the sport and how him and Vanessa met, and also his future plans after his accident.
Oh my gosh, I will say I had a panic attack when he was telling us the story of his rock climbing fall. Spoiler alert, it was bad.
I'm just going to say one thing is that what happened to him can happen to anyone. It's not his fault at all. That's how dangerous climbing is. I mean,
that's why I'm not going to do it.
You double and triple check every piece of gear every single time, and he did that, but who knows?
I'd never met them before, and they're both just such badasses. They're just resilient. They're tough. They have a cute love story. It's not as cute as ours, but it's pretty good. And even cuter is the love story between Trevor and Javier. So they get into that. It gets a little risque. Don't have your kids listening to the first 10 minutes. There's some curse words. There's some genitals thrown out there. Not really. But yeah, it was a great episode. Loved having them and cannot wait to see what they accomplish over the next few years together.
Yeah, I'm excited for both of them.
I'm Steph Garcia Psychos.
Trevor Psychos.
And welcome back to our podcast with some very special guests. Our first double guest, double booking. You may have heard of them. They're a pretty big deal in the OCR and epic racing community.
Yeah, so Javier Escobar and Vanessa
Gebhardt.
Vanessa.
He's not going to be able to pronounce that. Let's bring them on and tell you all about them. Javier and Vanessa.
Sorry, Vanessa.
Thanks for joining us.
I'm dyslexic.
Wow. Okay, we're off to a great start here. Let's talk about our beautiful guest, Javier Escobar. You might have seen him at a few World's Toughest Mudders. He has hit 35, 65, 80, 100, and then 100 again. That's not too shabby. In 2021, when he hit 100 miles, it was 22:57. That sounds like way too much time on your feet. But let's go to Vanessa, who's even more of a badass. She was first place female, second overall in the 2017 Survival Race Canada. It's a 36-hour event. Second overall for Spartan World Championship Ultra. And then in 2018, she was first overall, beating all of the men. Love that, in the 2018 Nicaragua Survival Run. Javier and Vanessa, thank you guys so much for joining us.
Cool. How's it going? Congratulations on your recent marriage and stuff. So.
And stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
and the house and all this other crazy shit you guys are up to.
Yeah, literal shit. Our pipes burst the other day, and that was an adventure. But this guy's tried to run me out so many times. We've wrecked 2 vehicles together. Like, it's just.
Yeah, I told him at Tacoma, and I told him I work van, so I had to get another van.
You have such bad luck with vehicles. I mean, remember the time when I was down in Seattle, and then we went to the beach, and then you went over the spikes and blew out one of your tires.
Yes, because like there's that line of cars to get in that one driveway. I'm like, fuck this, I'm gonna go this way. But I had the spikes.
Oh gosh,
just popped on the tire.
Well, obviously, for everyone listening, watching, you can tell that Escobar and Psychos have quite a history. How did you guys meet? Tell us a little story here.
Man, what was it? I think I approached you.
Everyone approaches him.
I was sitting there looking sexy, and he came up to me.
Yeah. I was that was in and that was to interview you after, what was it, 2018 World's Toughest. And then that's kind of when we first met, and you went through your lung issues at World's Toughest Mudder that year, and then I asked you what you were going to do next, and then you were flying to Mexico. And then I was like, oh, so he's not like this super like racist to pro-Trump, like pro like fuck the Mexicans or anything like that. And yeah, and then after that, I think we stayed in touch for a bit, right? And in 2019, I think it was spontaneously you were like, hey, I'm gonna go scuba diving after World's Toughest Mudder. Do you want to come? And I was like, fuck yeah. Because I was admiring him from afar. So since like 2016, I would be reading his articles and fangirling him. I was like, oh my god! Like at 2017, before World's Toughest Mudder started that race, I went to go take a piss off the side of the cliff because everyone was going to the bathrooms, and then Trevor was like, oh, he was like right next to me, and I was just like, oh my god, I'm peeing next to Trevor's cycles. It's so cool.
I remember that. I didn't know that was you. I remember some guy
that was
when I was sitting there picking a link for the race.
I'm editing all this out because this is too much love for Trevor. I'm getting embarrassed right now. Trevor, what do you remember about your first meeting or your first time you remember meeting Escobar?
Well, now I was pissing in the bushes before the race in Vegas, but hell, I would say that was shit. I mean, before 2019, when you fucking dropped the hammer and got your goal, you made the podium, you hit your 100-mile goal. Like, when did we meet before that? I can't remember. Like,
that was 2018, but it was like briefly at the bar that we met, and then I interviewed you. Oh, and then at Sonoma, the race in Sonoma, I also interviewed you and asked you what your favorite Pokemon was, and you said it was a Charizard. So I
remember that.
Good answer.
Yeah. So we like that was kind of like the beginnings, and then the Vegas trip when we went to go do Toughest Vegas, and we all came together as a team, and then that's when we really started to get to know each other because we went out the day before the race. I think was it the day before or after when we went partying?
I think it was
before the race. Before and after the race, we were out partying and stuff. So that's when we kind of really started connecting a little bit more and really getting to know each other. So
yeah.
Well, Escobar, tell us how you got into OCR and then specifically Tough Mudder.
Well, I had done a Tough Mudder back in 2012, and it just scared the living crap out of me. And I was because it was 10 miles, it was more distance that I've ever run in my life, and I trained pretty hard for that. And then after just having that one experience, I just kind of fell off the face of the earth. I just went into a lot of partying and drinking and living life and stuff. And 2016, I came across a YouTube video for World's Toughest, and I was like, or 2015, and I was like, oh man, that's pretty crazy. Like, who the hell would do that? And one night, I got drunk and went on the Tough Mudder website and just signed up for the race, and was like, screw this, I'm gonna go do it. Showed up to the race without doing any research. I was powerlifting, probably running maybe like at most 10 miles a week. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be so good at the obstacles. And I was like, it was such a miserable experience. Started the race, did about 35 miles in that 24-hour period. And, I thought I was hot shit, for running that much mileage and surviving the 24 hours. And, that's kind of what got me started into the journey, of OCR. And then after that, of course, I signed up for like the Spartan race 50K in New Jersey, which was maybe 4 or 5 months after World's Toughest. And I was like, oh, I did World's Toughest Mudder. This race isn't going to be anything big, and it was a mountain race for one. It was like 10,000 feet of elevation gain, and I pretty much placed like 10 places from last place. I was like number 354 out of like 357 or something like that. Just completely, and that was kind of the time frame where I was like, you need to put your ego aside. You need to get real with yourself and just have a hard conversation saying, I have no fucking idea what I'm doing. So I then hired a coach, and then kind of he started taking me through the motions, like actually doing weekly mileage and building up to it, and like actually started running and focused on that. And yeah, that's kind of what set me off. And in that year, so 2017, that's when I ended up hitting 65 miles. But you just became like very obsessed with it. Everything from, like I said, I was reading Trevor's articles, reading everything about nutrition, like just getting hyper focused on it. And I was living and breathing this for like an entire year. And that's really kind of what got me from the 35 miles to like pretty much not running at all to the 65 miles at 2017's World's Toughest. I had a pretty ambitious goal that year too. I wanted to hit 75 miles, but I think something with nutrition at some point caught up with me, and then I just bonked really hard towards the end of the race, and I couldn't get back. My temperature wasn't there, and I just couldn't get back into it. From there, I just kind of like I said, every year I just became hyper obsessed over the race, and put all of my effort into that, because I don't really race outside of this. I'll sprinkle in a couple of things just to kind of fool around and stuff like that, but it's for one, I work a full-time job, I have a business as well, so I kind of my efforts are kind of spread into that. I don't think I have the, even though World Stuff is a huge commitment in terms of training, to perform like pretty much throughout the year, I don't think I have the capacity to do that. So again, it's just being honest with myself and not trying to, this isn't my full-time job at the end of the day. So, I know I'm not going to go out and podium every race or do anything like that. So you just focus on one thing and try to do, your best at it, essentially.
Yeah, like, forgive me for saying this, but you went from 0 to hero faster than anyone in the world. And I respect your family life, your work ethic, and the drive that you bring to the sport. That's why, we've stayed so close after these years. But so Vanessa, tell me your story.
My story, first of all, you said second overall in the Spartan order, but it was second female. Don't say overall would be too much. It would be nice, but that's not what I do. But I started 2016 with obstacle course, because before I was doing bodyweight training most of the time, just burpees and push-ups, pull-ups, whatever. And then 2016, I did my first race in the elite, and my first race in my hometown, a Spartan race, a sprint. And I won this one, and then I actually thought I'm done with it. And I thought, okay, good for me, happy, won my hometown race. And then a friend, one girlfriend of mine, she wanted to race too, but she couldn't make it, and so she said, let's go to another city. And then I said, okay, if I'm going to do that, I want to try super. So I did a super. I got third, and I was not running at all. I really loved doing bodyweight stuff, and then I got third, and it was like, oh, that's nice. And then people told me that now I have to do the beast, because the beast is so much more difficult and it's with elevation and all that stuff. And so I did that, and I got second, and it was the first time I've ever ran 25 kilometers. I don't know exactly what's in miles. I'm sorry. I do kilometers.
It's a half marathon about distance for the
a little
beast.
bit more, like 15 miles.
No, it's supposed to be a half marathon.
Half marathon. Yeah.
Never. Yeah.
And after that, I thought, okay, so I did 3 distances. There's only one missing. So I flew to Tahoe 2016 to the Ultra World Championship, and I got third there. And then that was all in 1 year. And I thought, like, okay, this is nice. I did 4 races, 4-time podium. Good for me. And then afterwards, there was another race, and that was called the Survival Run. And it's also like was organized by Spartan people, like by two Spartan employees. And this was 2017 in Nicaragua. And I had my first DNF because it was the first 24-hour race, and I had my first DNF ever at that race. And yeah, and then I got hooked. I did so many races in 2017, different from sprint, super to ultras. And then 2017 summer, I had the Canadian one, which I won as female and second overall. And then I started 24-hour Spartan, which is different because the survival runs are more one route and you have no idea where to go. And what the Spartan is just like one course, as you know, as many rounds as possible. And then I kept doing that, but I lost a little bit of track. 2019, I started again, but I got injured. I wanted to go to the Iceland or like Sweden 24-hour, but I was sick before that. And then 2020, there was a different time. But I tried to kept the training and everything. But in general, I feel like I have to build up my training again to the level I was, or even more than that.
Well, you guys have such a similar story about how you got into OCR in general. So I have a couple of like background questions. Number one, what kind of training, what kind of athletes were you before you guys got into Tough Mudder and Spartan? You guys both have mentioned weightlifting or body weight work. What was like your fitness routine like before you really dove into this crazy world?
Oh, wow. So I did run track and cross country in high school. But I was, the first year, the reason I got into track and cross country is because I was just this chubby ass kid in high school. And then my brother told me that I wouldn't survive track and field. And my initial goal was because I was so fat that my boobs would hit my hands while I was running. So my goal for 1 year was just to lose enough weight so that that didn't happen. And that kind of turned into this 4-year thing. And, my high school had the worst, we were the worst track and cross country team in the entire state. We'd go to events and races and stuff like that. And people would ask, like, oh, who's the best racer? And they like everyone on the team would always point at me, and I was like this chubby ass kid. So, right after that, it was like 2006 graduated high school, and that just became this like, alcohol and partying, all the way up until like 2015, essentially. I would do some training. A lot of what I would do is primarily just powerlifting stuff. So I was doing a lot of heavy deadlifts, a lot of like squats, overhead presses, and stuff like that. And pretty much it was just 5 days a week that I was doing this kind of training. Like I said, eventually 2016 came around, and started running in 2017 is when I really started running. So
why did you want to switch gears from lifting to running? Like, what was the catalyst?
It's just spending time outdoors. I guess I was noticing that a lot of the stuff that I was doing in the gym doesn't really translate to anything that I was doing outside. At the time too, I started really getting into like mountain biking. I spent a lot of time in the woods, and then, that eventually turned into me running in the woods, and doing some cross training that way. I kind of fell in love with being outdoors, or spending my weekends just out in nature and stuff like that. And, the gym is nice. But again, you're just surrounded by 4 walls and, steel plates and stuff like that. And it's just, it's good to have a healthy balance between, this mechanical for brick and mortar world and being outdoors as well. Yeah.
What about you, Vanessa? What was your background leading into Spartan racing?
Just bodyweight training. I trained almost 5-6 times a week because I started training bodyweight 2012, and I got hooked because of where I'm working as well. And we had this app with Philetics, and I was training 4 times a week. almost every day. Sometimes we had weeks where we trained every day. And from 2012 and then 2016, I just signed up, and then I raced and I started running more. That was one point where I just needed to, because I knew if I want to continue doing that, I need to get better in running. And I haven't seen the effects yet, but I'm getting there. But in the end, I'll did all body weight only. No, not many weights. Sometimes when the boys hit me up and just like go to the gym and they wanted to see how much I can squat, and then we did that, and that's it.
That's, I mean, the fact that you're saying that you're not like a runner really, and yet you're crushing like ultras, that's insane to me. So you've got the talent in there for sure. I'm scared of you. So why did you choose, Vanessa, why did you choose to do Spartan? And Javier, why did you choose to do Tough Mudder?
I chose Spartan because they had elevation. I don't like running flat. I'm really good with mountains because I really like using my legs in uphill and downhill, and that's where I can run quite good downhill, and that's why I love running outside, and it's like gives me more of the feeling of I'm here in the moment, and I look around and I think like, Jesus, I'm able to do this, and it makes me really happy rather than when I run flats. I mean, it could be also nice in the forest, but in general, running up and down, have the view is for me everything.
We're so opposite. I'm like downhill running, I'm just trying not to die, and I just want to run flat and in a circle and turn left. That's all.
Yeah.
Let's go mock Jesus all day. 4-minute miles.
What about you, Javier? How did Tough Mudder get on your radar?
How did I get into the Tough Mudder? I think for me it was more that it just scared me. Spartan race was cool, but I mean, you kind of have these like very cookie cutter obstacles that you're doing, and then in the Tough Mudder community, I think what's fun is just like they have cool obstacles, like good featured obstacles at the events that kind of play. There's a mental aspect to it to some of them, and then there's a physical aspect to some. So you have like a good breakup of both, rather than just kind of like hitting these like very standard obstacles and stuff like that.
Okay, so we're also opposite because I see Tough Mudder. I'm gonna probably make some enemies here. I mean, I remember telling Trevor, I'm like, it's so cheesy. The like, oh, electrocuted, like, woo.
Yeah, I'm like, at Spartan, you gotta go, at the start line, and run. Like, who the fuck wants to do that? I don't want to do that.
That's a little embarrassing. I'm not gonna lie, it's embarrassing. But
Escobar's right. Like, they challenge different areas. It's not just physical. There's other areas. Like, who wants to jump off a cliff? Who wants to run through electricity? Because there's benefits to doing that, So
I'm okay.
Exactly. That's why I can't do it.
We'll see.
Well, especially like Spartan and even their like ultras, right? They never had a cliff jump like we had at World's Toughest, and that's like an incredible experience where you're just 35 feet or 30 feet. Right, and then you're just jumping off of that. Like that's pretty cool.
Sounds like to me.
It's rad.
Like, where do you get that at Spartan race? You don't. But I think it's both have their pros and cons, because if you like specialize in the Spartan race, I mean, like you'll do pretty well at that. So.
Yeah, clearly your girl has done pretty well by specializing.
So she does pretty well in everything that she participates in. So. Like, I'll give you an example, right? Like we, there's this popular trail that I love to run in the mountains over here in New Hampshire called the Franconia. Is the Franconia Traverse, right? And it's about 4,800 feet of elevation gain. There's some very, very technical climbing, some very, very technical descending. And like the first time that she I've been trying to break like 2 hours on it, and the closest I got was like 2:05. She comes out first time, goes through it, gets lost, and goes completely off course, and then somehow still finds her way back to the parking lot that we're supposed to be at in 2:15, 2:20 or something like that. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, I've been at this mountain like 40 times already, and can barely crack it. And then she on site and just comes in and just destroys it. And you talk about like the downhill running. Like, I have never seen somebody so reckless running downhill as I have with her. Like we were the same trail we were running down. And I remember she just clipped a rock and she was probably falling for like 2 to 3 minutes, just like waving her hands, still keeping that cadence. And I'm like, yo, if she goes, she's done. She's gonna be all set. But she just kept it moving, and I'm like, wow, that's freaking impressive.
That is my absolute nightmare.
I call her Rocket because she's a laser beam. She just goes.
Not down. Down I walk. Jeez.
You go ahead.
So the real juicy question I want to know is how you guys met.
Ooh, yeah, do you want to take this?
You can whatever you want.
Yeah, let's hear how romantic you are, Javier.
Oh, okay, yeah, for sure. Very romantic. So we were in Nicaragua, and I had gone down there to do the Fuego y Agua race. And you know, that race, it was mentioned in Born to Run. And then so you know, I reached out to Matt Davis at the other podcast, and he had he knew the guys that ran the event, so he actually got me down to that race. And you know, we're on the island, and I'm tooling around the Friday before the race on a bike, on a motorbike, and you know, it's just a bunch of dirt roads. I fall off the bike at like 30 miles an hour, do a good ass tumble, and then I'm out. Like I can't race because, you know, my knee's screwed up, and like I almost lost my nipple. Like it was a pretty decent crash, and this is a common theme of me almost dying like pretty much every year for the past couple of years. So what I ended up doing, because I felt bad because, you know, they helped with some of the transportation costs and the entry and all this other stuff. I was like, well, what can I do? And I just started volunteering at the finish line, and just handing out beers and stuff like that. And so I'm there, and then Vanessa comes through, gets second overall in the 50K, beats out the rest of the guys in that race. And I tried to hand her a beer, and she's like, no, I don't drink. And I said, oh, so whatever, you loser. Keep moving. This too fancy person over here can't have a freaking beer after a race. So, I stayed there pretty much. I was volunteering until like, I don't know, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And, then I noticed that there's this crazy woman that is dancing and like all sorts of stuff. And I'm like, oh man, she has way too much energy. And then she's like sitting down at one point, and I approach her, and then I just, I hold her hand, and I was just like, nice to meet you. Congratulations on the 50K, blah, 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 blah. And then I just stay there, and I just continue holding her hand, like being as awkward as I possibly can be, like intentionally just trying to be super awkward. And she's just like, we're just chilling, and we're just having a conversation. And then like at some point, like we just switch hands and we just continue this. And then I was just like, oh, this is the one. After that, I just slid into her DMs. And I was like, girl, what are you about? Like, you're doing this or not?
What are you about?
I love that. I want to see the receipts on that.
You've been in Boston.
I'd be like, yo, you got a man? Like, what's up?
Not at all.
What's up, girl?
With the digits. So yeah, the following day, so we met that night, and the following day, everybody's going out to breakfast, and I come in and I go sit at the table, and I see her across the room, and I'm like, hey, and then she's like, like I was like, oh my god, like way too much energy. So then she comes over because she's talking to Luis Escobar, who has like the photos and stuff like that, and then she just comes and she stands behind me, and she just like starts massaging my shoulders, and I'm like, oh, I like this.
You didn't even raise.
And then I started telling everyone at the table, I said that I met this girl, and she's the one. And that's kind of how I went. And then she like sat next to me, and she just continued to play along with my bullshit. And that's pretty much it. We just continued talking after that. And so the race happened in February, like towards the end of February in 2020, before like the pandemic hit really hard. And you know, I go back home, she goes back home, and then I was like, oh hey, there's this race, the New Jersey Ultra Beast, like, do you want to go do that? And she like buys the ticket, gets her flight, and I'm just like, yes, this is my kind of crazy, like let's do this. Yeah, and then, you know, we just continued talking after that, and yeah, it just kind of turned into something.
Vanessa, where were you based at that time?
Munich. I'm still
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What are you doing here now?
Visiting, and I have the Ultra Beast on Saturday.
Oh my gosh. International love. This is amazing. Yeah. What about Javier's creepy or romantic approach to you did it?
No, the approach, I think it wasn't an approach, it was just I didn't even think about it. But what I thought afterwards was also like, if you would have, there was so many coincidences that day where I thought if you would have not had this little, like, it was a big little meteor, I don't know, something, motorcycle accident, he would have run 100K, I would have run 50K, would have not met at all, because I'm not waiting on the finish line for somebody I don't know, and we have different start times. And also we haven't met on the island before that day either. So there was no, we went to the same restaurant or anything. So we only met in the finish line for that second. I didn't even remember that he gave me the beer. I was just like, hell no, I ran 8 hours. I'm not going to have a beer now. But in the end, he just passed by, and then he asked me, like, because they introduced me on the speakers, and then he just came and then hold my hand. And then I was just like, okay, so let's do this. And I didn't even recognize it was more awkward. We were just holding hands, and he was like, why we're holding hands? Like, I don't know. And then we switched, and then and so it was quite funny. But actually then we talked about what he does, what I do, and then it was just a 20-minute talk. And then I had to leave because friends are coming, and I was like, all right, nice, good to meet you. Next day we met for another 5 minutes, and that was it. So there was no more interaction into that. And then we were talking, and then we also like have a phone call when I was in Munich and he was in Boston. And then I was actually like, okay, so this is nice. We get along. He's very funny, and we have the same humor, which is very interesting and very. It's something which is important to me because I have a lot of energy. So please also laugh with me at the same time, because I laugh a lot. But that was for me very important that we get along. And then I thought, like, yeah, why not racing? Come over, and then we do that. COVID hit. I couldn't go to the US, so we did texting, talking, having online dates. I have never had online dates where we're just cooking together and like watching movies together online. And then we did that for 6 months. And then it was just like, his borders didn't open, my borders didn't open. And I was just like, so what do we do? Do we wait, or should we meet somewhere? And then there were a few places, but then Mexico was one place where we could meet. And so I had my first very expensive date in Mexico where I booked a flight and then flew to Mexico to meet a guy I never kissed before. It was just like, okay, so how is this going to happen? But we had 2 weeks, and it was so much fun.
Yeah.
So how do you guys balance work, play, and training and all that stuff? What's your daily life right now?
So for me, fortunately, I mean, I got promoted into this role that I'm in right now. So, you know, I get a healthy balance of work from home and going to go visit some of the hospitals and stuff like that. So, you know, as much as I want to be an early morning person, I just am not. And majority of my training all happens like after 4 o'clock. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, I know, like, once work stops, that it's just training and recovery, and that's it. It's, you know, whatever hour, 2-hour training block that I have, and then afterwards everything is just dedicated towards recovery, which is like mobility, or, you know, doing whatever just to kind of wind down and stuff like that and prepare for the next day.
Are you still working with a coach?
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Joshua Reed. So he's my coach right now.
And what about you, Vanessa?
I do. I am. Maybe it's a little bit surprising to everybody, but I'm a very, very much a morning person. And I usually wake up at 5:30. I do my training. I start working at 9. So I do my training, do my morning routine, waking up, don't drink coffee. So also a good thing. I do meditation. I do the morning movements, and then I start training depending what it is. But running or body weight, whatever, meeting with people, outside training. I love training outside. Doesn't matter. I do not like to train in the gym or somewhere, but I do it if I have to. And then I work till 6 most likely, and then I stop eating at 6 also. So I go home, I chill at 8. 8:30, I lay in bed, read 9, sleepy time, and then same thing.
So you mentioned bodyweight training often. Were you a gymnast, or you just do calisthenics, or what's bodyweight training? What's that to you?
It's just high intensity bodyweight training. I do like the frenetic stuff I do is regularly, just even if it's just different types of bodyweight stuff, but it's most likely trying to beat my PBs in burpees, squats, sit-ups, something, and then try to do that. Sometimes in a group, sometimes without. Try to beat like people around me. That's my favorite part. And but in the end, I do a lot of bodyweight. It's just high intensity bodyweight training. That's what I started with. So
what's your PB for 100 burpees?
4 minute 55.
Damn. I did like 7 minutes one time. I haven't done it since.
I want to try that. I want to try it.
Do you and Escobar compete?
Sorry?
No, she just dominates. So there really isn't any winning at anything for me. Everything is just pretty much losing.
No, you do the running. I mean, like we have some workouts where it's 400 meters running, burpees, squats, 400 meters running, and I catch up with like some burpees, but then we start running in 400 meters. I have no chance, even though.
So we did this race last year in. Yeah, it was and it was a 50K, and you know I had just like in improv just like bought a flight and wasn't like prepared for the race or anything like that, and the 50K with about like 10,000 feet of elevation gain, and then like the last 5K of the race you're dropping like 10,000 feet. It's like just completely brutal towards the end, and she had been abstaining from coffee for a very long time. And we're like, yeah, we're gonna do this race together, and it's gonna be great. Yeah, I love you. And so we start the race, and you know we're hanging on pretty good, you know, for the first, you know, we're climbing easy, we're running easy, we're downhill going easy, and all this other stuff. And you know we get about halfway, and she has a Coke, and then like a gel with some caffeine in it. And then like, you know, we start going, and I'm like, man, she's going pretty fast here. And then like I'm trying to keep up, and I'm like dying, and I'm like, is this hard for you? And she's like, no, it's easy. And then she just like continues to spread, like, you know, before you know it, she was like 2 miles ahead of me, and I scream because I can see her before she turns the corner, and I'm like, you know, the mountain like completely covers her. I'm like, we were supposed to do this together.
Then you come back.
Yeah. So yeah,
I would
my ass.
Yeah.
But so I wanted to, because I felt I when I had the Coke and then I had the gel, after like 1 minute, I just turned around. I was like, I do feel the caffeine like this. It's like, oh my God, it hits me. And so I couldn't stop, but I looked back and like, okay, so, but I could not stop. It was like, okay, I have to go. And then there was at the 30K, there was a mark, like last big water station. I thought, okay, I'm going to wait here for him because the last time they would go down together. Mm-hmm. And there, one guy asked me like, oh, you're a third woman. And I was like, sure. And he just looked at me, oh, no, you're fourth. But I looked to my right, and then there was a third woman sitting next to me. And I was like, all right, it's on. And then I ran down past her, and then I was so in the flow. I caught up to the second girl, and then I got second in the race.
Oh, I mean, that's amazing. It's like you having such a disciplined diet, no caffeine, no alcohol. Like people like me, I can't function without them. So it's like, I don't know. I respect that. It's amazing. What are your guys' future plans?
Before we get to that,
all right,
we have to talk about the big event that happened for poor Escobar. Tell us about your injury.
Yeah. So I was indoor rock climbing. And it's fun. This was February 13th, before Valentine's Day.
Right before our wedding. Thanks, bud.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you know what? You can blame my little sister for this, because originally I wanted to go bowling, and she's like, can we go rock climbing? And I'm like, all right, let's go. So, you know, we went rock climbing, and yeah, I was on the auto belay, and I had the auto locking carabiner in, and then I put in the backup carabiner in, and you know, I climbed the route. It was a 511C, by the way, Trevor. So it was a pretty difficult climb.
Good job. Yeah.
It made it to the top, and I was surprised at myself that I was like, I hadn't been climbing. I was like, oh shit, I got to the top. And you know, normally I have this like very jittery, like I don't trust this thing at all. But like for the first time in my life, I was like, ah, fuck it. And then I just pushed off, and I heard the two clips just go, like, it just clip, and yeah, it just free fell like 25 feet. And then just landed on my right. The brunt of the impact was taken by my right foot, and I broke one of the hardest bones to break in your foot, which is the talus. And I fractured it. And then, you know, I sent Trevor the picture, and originally when they told me it was fractured, it was a line fracture. I just thought it was a line fracture. The thing looked like it's like if you drop a china plate, and that's what that bone looked like. It's just a bunch of fractures, and a bunch of bone fragment essentially. Yeah, so that kind of like that took me out for well, that has taken me out, and not until most recently that I've been able to actually stand on both my legs and kind of walk. Yeah, but it was interesting because the doctor told me, she's like, oh, yeah, you shouldn't move for like 8 weeks. And I'm like, yeah, that's not gonna happen. So like the second day, so this happened on a Sunday, by the way. I didn't miss work on Monday because I was like, I gotta continue working. And then Tuesday, I figured out what I could do because I have kettlebells at home. And I was like, all right, I can do some presses. I can do some rowing. I can do just these random things. And eventually, I think like 3 weeks or 4 weeks after, you know, I had the cast on and everything, I got on the assault bike, and then I tried it with my arms and my left leg. And then eventually I just, like, you know, within that session, I introduced my right leg, and the cast was like pretty much holding everything in place. So, you know, I could just push with both. And then I, you know, so now I'm just kind of maintaining my aerobic fitness with the assault bike. And then with the, you know, now that the weather's getting nice, I'm going to start biking. So yeah, it's going to be a long road to recovery. So I start physical therapy next week. And, you know, it's probably gonna be like another 4 weeks. And, you know, I'm kind of doing my own stuff as well, like in the indoor pool and stuff like that. Just trying to relearn essentially how to walk. And eventually I'll get back into running, you know, I suppose. I don't know when. But, you know, I'm confident now that I spent some time on it that I'm going to be able to get back into running.
Okay, I'm having a panic attack just with this whole conversation because as a former steeple chaser, like like I can just picture. I've had some colleagues who have like broken that or the navicular or whatever, and it's just can't even imagine.
Did they get back? Did they come?
They did.
Oh, okay, good.
So there's hope, but
what would they do to get back? Is it pool running? Is it
a lot of people? Yeah, pool running is popular for track athletes for sure. No impact, but you know, it's got to be right for everybody. You know, whatever is working for you. Obviously, you both have such like strong like mental strength and resilience that like you'll be back. Patience, take your time. Don't rush it. That's all I gotta say.
So Vanessa, you're gonna hold his hand and go keep racing this year.
Yes, but I'm also going to challenge. I mean, like you can still do upper body stuff, so it's not going to be like we're going to sit down with it, because eventually, if you would stop, it would be bad. But I'm trying to. We go for walks, even if it's slow and all that. But I mean, like it's just like get out and try to do something. It doesn't have to be like he's not completely laying down, can't move. So this is a good thing at least. Yeah,
I'm going to be her cheerleader this Saturday at the Spartan Ultra Beast. So I'm going to be there in my little outfit and my pom-poms. I'm like, go, Vanessa.
Yeah. So what is the roadmap look like for the rest of 2022 for both of you? What's kind of the like big goal you're going to chase?
So depending on how the recovery goes, you know, we'll see. I would have to hit a couple of, like, for me to return back into World Toughest Mudder, I would have to hit a couple of milestones, which would be, you know, a 50-mile week, a 60-mile week, and a consecutive 70-mile weeks. And if I can do that, then I'm definitely going to participate in World's Toughest Mudder this year. If not, I'm definitely gonna be spending a lot of time on the bike. So I was looking at doing a 100-mile bike ride, and just kind of getting that out of the way since I haven't done it yet. And then, you know, if recovery doesn't go too well, I'll probably look into getting into gravel bike racing or something like that, you know, until I can transition back into running. So, you know, definitely always staying active and doing something, you know, just can't stop. So.
What about you, Vanessa?
For me, I mean, like my goal is actually to have like a continuous good running, like a running calendar. I mean, like I do a racing calendar and just like keeping it, because I love doing my bodyweight stuff, but I really need to get more running in. But in general, I have this ultra, which just hits it up. Maybe like 3 weeks ago, I had the Spartan sprint in Munich. So I did my race. I didn't get on podium, but I mean, like that happens in general. And then I wanted to run the race we did last year again. I do have 2 other ultras, which are my favorites in Europe, which is the one in France, and in July. We wanted to do it. I mean, like, I'm going to do it and Javier's going to come, but it's an amazing ultra in France. And then there are like 2 or 3 different ones I really would like to do. If it would be possible to do the 24-hour one in the US, in Tahoe, and North or South Tahoe, some of these 2. I forgot it's North or South.
Tahoe this year.
Yeah, and then this would be like in September. This would be the goal in general, if that would be possible. But then let's see what comes around. But I already have like 5 ultras and trade races, which I would like to do in the next 5 months, 6 months.
So Vanessa, have you ever thought about doing World's Toughest Mudder?
I thought about it in general. Yeah, I think it would be a nice idea to try if it's in November and then in September is the Tahoe. It could also be possible, and I think it would be nice. I won't put my money on me because I'm not good with running flat, but I really like the obstacles, and I think I really love like the mental challenge, because I love that. I love the feeling of just being there at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. when it's dark, and then what I do in 24 hours, I do sing a lot, and then I run by and sing some songs and everything. So I really do enjoy 24-hour racing, because it always gets me closer to myself, and I do have the feeling, even though with the survival runs, these ones are so much more real than like something else, and I really miss them. But in general, the World's Toughest Mudder is something I've done. Toughest Mudder, and I do enjoy it, but I enjoy it more with some elevation, but it doesn't mean it's not a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, if you can keep up with Javier for training, and he's done 100 miles, I mean, we are waiting for a woman to hit the 100-mile mark. So no pressure.
I mean, that's
throwing
a good
it out
challenge.
there.
That's a good challenge for the year, I think.
Or for 2023, you can wait a year. You know, you can get your feet wet and then go after it. But it's definitely, we're excited to see who can do that. So maybe it's you.
Who's gotten the closest? Was it Rhea with 90?
Yeah, Rhea, I think got 95 in 2017.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna change my gender and just do it. Like, I'm gonna have all these records and shit.
No, not how it works. That's not how it works here. Well, I don't know. Well, anyway.
He should.
Well, with that hair though, you can probably do it. You can pull it off.
Yeah, we're about to cut this hair. What do you think, Buzz?
Really? How short?
You want to cut it and make Javier a toupee.
Nice. Thanks. I'm losing hair, so I mean, I could probably
blonde bangs.
Any other like big highlights for you guys? You know, Javier, you're gonna do a little
honeymoon.
It's happening. It's happening towards the end. Yeah.
We are already in. We applied for a visa.
Yeah.
So from my point of view, we are planning for me to move over to Boston, but then we have a lot of things to do before that. But yeah, this is by end of the year or something.
Yeah, we yes, we're going through that fiance visa process now.
Oh my gosh.
And everything. Yeah. So it was submitted back in January. So it's usually about like an 8 to 9 month waiting process or something like that. So we're just kind of waiting on that, and then
you can also have a baby in that time too. I mean, just knock it all out.
Why not? Just do that.
Why wait?
And buy a giant dog too.
Yeah, there you go. all of that. Yeah.
I really do love your dog.
She just keeps like she would always message me like, "Tell Trevor to post more about his dog."
You guys, we can drive across the country with him and leave him with you, and then we can go away, and you guys can just keep him forever. So,
Forever.
forever. Yeah, I'm looking for someone to take him off our hands.
He's amazing.
He's a menace.
She's coming around. She just likes to be a butthead.
Well, Javier, Vanessa, thank you guys so much for joining us. Do we have any more juicy Escobar psycho stories that we need to share?
Nah.
Or should they stay in the vault?
Nah. I know everything about him and how he looks. Say that.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, with that, I think we should wrap this. Guys,
Love you, Escobar.
thank you so
Love you
much
too,
for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you so
right.
much for having
Take
us.
care.